We did not choose this war, yet here we stand, swallowed by a conflict that unravels the very fabric of our identity. In the quiet of broken streets and the haunting gaze of empty chairs, the truth emerges, a truth that forces us to confront a reality where survival is not heroic, but a desperate, silent act of reclaiming who we are. In the beginning, the skies over our cities were not filled with the promise of hope, but with the darkened smoke of inevitable loss. We watched as our homes succumbed to flames, as communities disintegrated into disjointed echoes of what once was. And amidst the chaos, a question lingers. How do we live when every brick of our world crumbles and every memory is threatened with erasure? It is here that our story unfolds, a story not of victory or defeat in the traditional sense, but of the enduring struggle to keep our true selves intact. Across the desolate avenues and shattered landscapes, there exists a silent understanding. Survival is the only choice, even if it means accepting defeat in every sense of the word. Imagine a nation divided by fate, where each outcome, whether perceived as a win or a loss, brings only tragedy. For those who believe that a defeat would bring liberation and renewal, the reality is far grimmer. A loss would dismantle infrastructure, snuff out democratic impulses, and leave society fractured, its collective spirit crumbling under the weight of despair. Conversely, a win might grant a semblance of control, yet at the cost of deepening isolation, economic decay, and a suffocating grip of authoritarian rule. For in this paradox, both victory and defeat reduce our existence to a single burning truth. If Iran loses, it burns. If Iran wins, it burns everything. As we journey through the remnants of what once was, we come to a painful realization. Historical disasters leave behind not just shattered buildings and broken promises, but an even greater void, a vacuum where memory and meaning once resided. In the aftermath of conflict, we find ourselves without legacy, our shared narrative sapped away by a relentless tide of forgetfulness. The bonds that once united generations now lie in ruins, replaced by an indifferent silence. We witness this erasure in the scatter of empty homes and the vacant stares of those who wander streets with no purpose. The haunting words remain, "We won't rebuild, we'll just forget what we used to be." Reflect on the symbolism of empty chairs gathered in dim rooms, mirrors splintered by time, and the pervasive sense that even our identity has been compromised. The very symbols of home and memory have been reduced to mere relics, standing as silent monuments to a state of loss where there is no promise of restoration. In the charged silence that follows calamity, there is a profound understanding that after every disaster, reconstruction is an illusion. It is not a matter of piecing together the past, but rather learning how to navigate the void left behind. Yet, amid the ruins and relentless assault on our collective soul, one thing is unmistakably clear. The war we face is not sanctified by any noble cause. The conflict as it unfolds is not driven by some sublime ideology or divine mission, but rather it is shaped by the insidious forces of propaganda and manipulation. Everyone, regimes, oppositions, even those exiled, sees in our suffering an opportunity to rewrite the narrative for their own gain. Headlines are crafted, agendas are advanced, and in the midst of it all, the true human struggle is obscured by the clamor for power. We hear it echoed in the bitter refrain, "This war is not holy, it's just artificial breathing for dead ideologies." Our nation, caught in the crossfire of global ambitions and local despair, now finds itself reduced to a geopolitical pawn, sidelined by powers that seek control rather than partnership. In every whispered conversation and every overheard news broadcast, there is an unspoken admission that Iran's role on the world stage has diminished. Whether our government stands firm or falters, the international community has long ceased to wait for our decisions. The reality is stark. Iran is alive, but no one is waiting for its voice, and our future is cast as little more than a managed zone in the grand chessboard of global politics. The struggles we face are not confined to the battlefields of cities. They extend deep into the essence of who we are. In the quiet despair of loss and the numb recognition of defeat, our national identity has become as shattered as the glass that once reflected our hopes. Our language, steeped in the heritage of bravery and pride, now echoes hollowly in empty corridors. Whether we identify as religious or secular, native or exiled, The collective identity that once bonded us has been eroded beyond recognition. The comfortable certainties of homeland, justice, and freedom are now replaced by an unsettling void. We are left with only the bitter truth. We don't rebuild identity, we just survive without one. Yet within this darkness, a spark of defiant clarity begins to form, a whisper of possibility that even amid ruin, all is not lost. It is in this space, at the intersection of despair and possibility, that new strategies for survival take root. There is no call to reclaim an idealized past, but rather a call to forge a future based on conscious resistance and ethical continuity. The path forward demands that we act, not with grand gestures of revolution, but with measured, quiet acts of resilience and authenticity. To survive, we must first learn to see clearly. We face not a dream of collapse nor a fantasy of immediate change, but rather a reality that calls for our vigilant endurance. Surviving means rejecting the seductive lure of propaganda, refusing to let those in power define our very essence. In the small, everyday acts of remaining true to ourselves, we find a strength that transcends the fleeting promises of militant ideology. Every moment of clarity is a small victory, a testimony to our determination to record our own truth for the generations that may follow. Building genuine human connections becomes not just an act of emotional solidarity, but a strategy against the pervasive forces of isolation and despair. In the simple act of communicating, of sharing our stories, fears, and dreams, we dismantle the walls erected by those who seek to divide and conquer. Families, neighborhoods, and local communities must weave together networks of trust that stand in defiance of both external pressures and internal processing. It is through these intimate bonds that we preserve the essence of our humanity and protect the fragile spark of solidarity that fuels our will to live. For too long, the narrative has been written for us. Stories of conflict have been told in language that strips away nuance, reducing our complex existence to mere headlines and political rhetoric. Now we must take back our narrative. In every whispered testimony, in every cautious sentence that recounts our daily resilience, there lies an opportunity to redefine our existence. We have the power to say, "I was here, I survived, I thought." In reclaiming our stories, we undermine the simplistic and destructive narratives imposed upon us by external forces. But resistance, we must remember, need not be the path of hatred and bluster. True defiance is measured in ethical choices, actions that are free from the theatrical martyrdom often celebrated by systems that feed on our grief. It is a slow, deliberate process of building hope that is grounded in reality, not the illusions peddled by those who profit from our suffering. In our struggle to endure, we cast aside the masks of imagined heroes and fallen martyrs. We reject the false comfort of easy narratives. Instead, each day is about the unadorned act of survival, staying awake to the complexities of our existence, questioning the narratives dictated by those in power, and relentlessly pursuing the chance to write our own unfiltered histories. We begin each morning with the understanding that our actions are not dictated by the whims of foreign powers, or even by our own past self-conceptions. They are a testament to the resilience that resides in the quiet corners of our hearts. It is then that the most profound truth emerges. We did not set out to be caught in this upheaval, but now that we are, the act of surviving is itself an assertion of dignity. We do not have to be heroes. We do not need to sacrifice ourselves on the altars of empty ideologies. Instead, our task is to live honestly, quietly, and with steadfast resolve. To endure is to create conditions where truth can flourish, even if just in the small corner of one's life. Let us then heed this call, to survive with awareness, integrity, and a commitment to recording our truth. Let us build networks that are not defined by fear, but by genuine care and shared experiences. And let us reclaim the narrative, strand by strand, until our collective voice can speak clearly against the backdrop of imposed silence. As we draw our reflections to a close, remember the solemn promise that has echoed through these turbulent days. We did not want this war, and we still cannot fully comprehend its burden. Yet in surviving, in choosing not to be defined by the manipulations of others, we lay the groundwork for a future that is authentically our own. We carry with us the conviction that even in the face of relentless adversity, every life, every story matters deeply. Act intelligently, quietly, and bravely. Survive, build genuine human connections, document your truth, and reclaim your narrative without succumbing to propaganda or despair.